Suarez's car has erupted in the flames.
I've never seen a car this disintegrated.
Oh, they got together in 3.
Whoa!
Congratulations, bud.
Yo! That was awesome. Holy sh**.
Welcome to another episode of NASCAR's Inside the Race, brought to you by Consumer Cellular. I'm Travis Peterson alongside Todd Gordon. Daytona surely lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
We're going to find out. Guys crashing. Unfortunately, we were up in the air again, and talk about how Harrison Burton won the race.
Yeah, we definitely do. And another thing that we had a fire on pit road. Actually burned the 99 car down to the point that they were out of the race. Let's get into that one a little bit, just because I think at the end of this, there's going to be a glimpse of moving forward in Harrison. So you come to it. I want to back this one up to coming to pit road. When you looked at it, I think there were 4 cars deep, and this is one of those ultimate situations you don't like, where everybody has to pit around the car that pits behind him. And if you watch this one play forward, the 11 has to go around the 22 here, which puts him angled in the wrong way into the box. 99 right behind him, having to go around the 11 car into the box in front of him. Same thing, he's having to be a little deeper in the box. And then we see the 21 here roll up, and he goes into his box. It's 4 cars deep, putting yourself in bad positions.
You know, it's interesting you talk about the pit pick here too, because usually you pick pits at Daytona expecting green flag stops. And you're going to come in with your group of guys and you want to build a buffer. In this case, the whole field had to come down together and you end up with this giant stack up.
Yeah, definitely one of those situations that early in a race, you have an opportunity like this, it kind of puts you in a bad position. We see this going forward, and on top of that, 21 car has struggles with the right front. It's a long stop. 99's ahead of him. The 11, you'll see roll the nose into here. He's trying to get out, but he can't turn far enough to get around the 99. Same thing happens with the 99 here. Spill of gas right there, if you see that, and the exhaust pipe just lights it up.
It's that big stack up. Denny having to gas up to go around the 99 and then lift causes the fire, and that's just the first bullet the 21 car had dodged for the day.
Yeah, it was definitely the 21, kind of a bystander just outside of the situation here, much like what he did the rest of the day. You look forward, lap 60. We get to lap 60 here, and as you look at this is the 21 car just with his nose stuck out here. And looking forward, a great move to avoid a wreck that happened, took out a bunch of cars.
Yeah, fortunate to get left right away because you see all the carnage up there on track. He's also fortunate to dodge that 42, but his peeking left really saved him right there.
Yeah, definitely did. Let's take it in car with the 21 car because I think when you look at this, he's got a gap to the 5 car. And this wreck is going to happen with the 5 pushing, I think, the 7 car in front of him. But he's got a gap there, and when this happens, he makes a pretty aggressive move to the left, right there.
Yep, that gap you mentioned is the first part of that. He had the ability to make that move. Now the second part, we just paused it right here. This used to be grass. This is the thing we all talked about coming to Daytona. Ryan Preece's flip, them eliminating all the grass. If that's still grass, he's going to go through there yet too. He's going to risk that ripping up his diffuser, ripping off the nose. So that being asphalt now really saved him from any more damage.
Yeah, definitely put him where he could drive through this and end up back on the racetrack, back in a fighting position. Mm-hmm. This wasn't the only wreck that Harrison got the opportunity to avoid. Let's go forward from that. Lap 152. Unfortunate for you guys.
Yeah, we're talking about the 21 car and how he won the race. This is how we lost the race. So you can already see the issue with us. But.
Yeah, Michael was leading the race and got a contact into the corner in a kind of awkward position, but put you in a position, fortunately didn't go all the way over.
Yep. We're focusing on that 21 car, and we just talked about his gap in the last one. He has another huge gap behind him that really helps save him right here as well.
It does. So as you see this, kind of everything washes up the hill. He checks up, doesn't get any contact from behind. I think he might have gotten the wall a little bit, but the seas kind of parted, and he drives on through.
Yeah, let's jump on board with him and watch it from his angle.
Yeah, good point here. You talked about it. A little gap forward again, being conservative, but a gap behind him allows him a little wall contact. You see that green and white car come up, get a little contact on it, but it's the seas part.
Very minimal right there. And because he's able to check up, not get run over from behind, he can navigate his way through this thing without ending up in it like a lot of people.
I think at the end of the race they were showing there were 6 cars that weren't involved in wrecks, and Harrison was one of them during the day. Here's lap 150, 10 laps to go. Again, I think Harrison here, 3rd car in line on the outside, and as we play forward, it's going to happen right in front of him.
Yeah, we're going to stop it right here. So like we've been talking about, right here's a 21. Got to highlight them because everybody's so close on every one of these wrecks. But you're going to see everybody starts to wreck underneath him, and the seas will just part here shortly.
Yeah, definitely one of those situations. Here's the 21 car. Free and clear. The 4 and 2 to the bottom. The 24 got a little contact out of this up into the wall. Yeah, you look at this, just behind the 24 car, wreck happens directly in front of him. Kind of checks up here. Actually, not part of the 24's incident. That was a car coming from the side to get him.
Another very fortunate situation that 24 didn't bounce off the wall and pick him up there, but luckily at the front of the pack, you have more opportunity to dodge just like that. He was up there far enough that when the guys crashed, he had free racetrack in front of him.
And this put him in a position where he was going to be in the front row of the final restart when we look forward. Let's take that to the broadcast view here. This is the last lap we're coming to.
Yep, just took the white, and you can see the 21's back there. He needs to find another run. The 8 is out right now, and a lot of times these races come down to a run down the backstretch, and that's what we're going to dig into here.
Yeah, they had separation. You're almost in a nervous position because the pack's coming at you. You don't know where it is, but Parker Retzlaff gives him a good push here. I feel like the bottom in this case is still in the best position, but we see the 20 car get loose right here.
Yep, that little wiggle right there almost coincides exactly with the 21 car starting to get his surge. He's side by side with the 8 now, but we think it starts back there with Cody Ware. So let's jump on board with him and watch that.
So this is on board the 15 off of turn 2. Coming up, he's trying to give a push to the 20 car, gets a little off center with him here.
Almost that whole time they're off center, but this final one that you just saw, he just gets him squarely. The 20 might have to lift. 21 goes right by on the outside.
It's just breaking momentum on the bottom line, and the top line got organized at the same time. Really impressive to watch how this change in momentum happens. Harrison Burton getting a push from Parker Retzlaff away from the 8 car here. You brought this up, and I think it's a good point. Parker Retzlaff doesn't do what he probably needed to do to win.
Yeah, I mean, we experienced it at Talladega, and when the 21 gets pushed out right there, going into turn 3, what he should be doing is taking his car and backing up to the 54. Almost before this point where we've paused it, he needs to be lifting and backing up. This is where his car needs to be right now.
Yeah.
And then he can build his run to go past the 21 car. But this is what helps the 21 car win the race. The 62 car being there, pushing the 21 out still. Now, when you roll this forward, the 8 car is going to get side by side with the 62. It hurts the 8's run a little bit. Nobody really has a gigantic run right now. The 8's going to get clear, and he's going to make his moves. But that really helped the 8 not have a power run on the 21 car.
Yeah, I think the 62, as he came backwards, he actually side drafted the 8 a little bit and broke some of the momentum coming to Harrison.
So now coming off 4, let's ride along with that 8 car because this is probably the most important part of the race for him and the 21.
Yeah, as you look at it, comes off, he's clear of Parker, makes a move to the top, but I think Harrison does a good job of blocking the double move here.
Yeah, if you actually back that up a little bit, we talked about this as we were preparing the shot. The 21 is in the middle of the track when he comes off the corner. He doesn't have to make a huge block to either side when he makes his move. Go back just a little bit farther there. So right here off the corner, the 8's now clear, but the 21's in the middle of the track. He's leaving the bottom and the top. He just said, I'm going to go wherever they come to.
And to your point, unlike the situation you guys got put in at Talladega, this racetrack's a little bit more narrow, so you can play defense a little better at Daytona.
Yeah, there's less area you have to cover in order to make sure this guy can't make his run.
And you look at it, Kyle making a move to the top here. I stopped it again. Harrison's going to react to that, but he only goes up far enough to make sure he can't get to the top, and he's already ready to make the move back to the bottom.
Yep. The closing rate we talked about not being as fast, the narrower track, really all allows for Harrison to make this move. Now we're going to talk next about him crossing that line, but that was a great point right there where the 8 hits him, and that's why he goes below that double yellow line.
Yeah, definitely. He got down there, got to the win here. So let's take this outside the car, take the TV broadcast look at it, and we'll kind of dissect it a little bit. Harrison makes the move, comes to the bottom. You see that wiggle there.
And right here, this is the line we're talking about. This double yellow line, you're not allowed to go below it. And the rule is you can't advance your position, but if you are forced below, it's okay. So Harrison didn't make a move where he blocked below but didn't get hit and went below the line. It's not his momentum that carried him around. It's what we saw, that contact with the 8 that drove him down there, and that's why he's safe from the penalty.
If you look at it, let's back this one up. The contact with the 8, as we play this forward, and we talked about this, you see that movement. The 8's pushing him, and he's getting him sideways.
Yeah, and you see
that's
the
what
21
drives him
sideways.
down there.
Absolutely.
That's what gets Harrison, by the time he gathers it back up, he's down below the yellow line, blends back in front of the 8,
and now the 8's momentum's killed, and the whole pack, nobody has a chance. Because of that contact and him getting back on track, if he didn't crash coming back on track, he had the race won.
That propels Harrison Burton into the playoffs, the Wood brothers on 100th win, and we saw a couple spectacular wrecks in this one. Unfortunately, you were part of it. We'll get into that next.
Hey race fans, Corey the Joy here. Join Ryan Flores and myself for Stacking Pennies each week. I'll break down my race and explain what happened right out of my windshield.
Plus, we award the Dogs of the Week for the best pit crews and go in-depth on all the money stops, pit road mistakes, and penalties.
And we've got a ton of guests. We have SVG stopping by. We had Ricky Stenhouse after he punched Kyle Busch in the face. We've had Bubba. We've had all sorts of guys in here in the Nonsense Garage, so you do not want to miss it. Check us out on Sirius XM Channel 90, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Each and every week, Stacking Pennies. That's what's up.
Unfortunately, we saw a couple wrecks that cars got airborne again. The first of which let's dive into was your 34 car.
Yeah, let's jump right into the clip here. And I'd like to point out, we're at the front leading right here. It looks like we're not going to be in a crash. I'm getting really tired of being the fastest car out front getting wrecked from the lead, I can tell you that.
It does seem like that's where the wrecks happen these days, is out front and you go forward. Let's go look at this from the TV's aspect now that we've gotten the dramatic part there. As you see here, this is what we're looking at. Michael McDowell leading, Austin Cindric second, and Josh Berry in third in this line, actually kind of pushing momentum forward as we get going.
Yeah, to your point there, they're all pushing, we're all really tight. And right here, I wanted to pause it because you can see the 2's into our bumper and the 4 was just into the 2's bumper. But on corner entry, look at all these other cars. Pretty much nobody else is nose to tail pushing each other anywhere in the field. And on corner entry is just a bad time to take a push, and I think that's really what caused this one for us.
Yeah, you looked at it, and I think they brought it up in the TV. Austin Cindric did lift. You could see the flame come out the pipes, but it was well into the run coming to you guys. Didn't break enough momentum for it.
So let's back that up to the part where we were airborne. We already saw how we got spun, but now we're going all the way back here. Cars sideways. We've talked about the air deflector. We've talked about how we have a new piece this week. Our car's not airborne right here. It gets airborne about the time the 22 hits us. And even in this wreck, the 34 car, we're up in the air. The 22 is probably helping us stay on the ground, but we never go completely over.
Yeah, and when we saw your car get to 90 degrees, it was sideways to the air, and it didn't seem like it was lifting off. So I feel like that air deflector that they put on the rear window, in this case, seemed like it may have helped the car at least stay down. Obviously, we've seen several situations when you have contact, cars get airborne because just the momentum of the push coming to them.
Yep, and the car just kind of floats there. We go right over Alex Bowman, and we land back down on our wheels. That was their intent. After the sadness of this crash ended, I said, well, at least we got to beta test NASCAR's new part.
You did, and it seemed like in this case it worked out. But then let's go forward. Later, we had the 4 car in a situation. Let's take his in-car run here and play this one forward. A little different scenario than what you had. The 2 car ends up getting hooked into him. And this was spectacular.
Yeah, we'll just live it here for a minute from Josh Berry's perspective. Getting over on his lid, losing connection just like we saw with the other guys going upside down, hitting the wall head on upside down. That was not a fun ride for him.
Yeah, if you go back and watch this from the TV standpoint, a push on Austin. Austin gets into him. We paused it here because if you look at it, there's a gap on both of these cars. They're both coming airborne at this point.
Yeah, these guys look like synchronized swimmer at this moment. Both cars have rotated to almost the same exact angle, and they're both lifting off at the same time. Obviously, the 2 probably has the benefit of having the 4 car in front of them blocking the air, but
I think one of the pieces, and you talked about the same angle, the fact that from this view you can see the rear bumper. These cars are past 90 degrees. We talked about yours. You got to 90 degrees, it seemed like it was staying down there. These cars are to the point where the back of the car is starting to come forward. I think a different scenario than what you guys had.
Exactly, and what we talked about all week. Corey's took off a little bit maybe before it got 90, and when it got 90, and that's what they went to work on. Unfortunately, we just found a whole new scenario here, and now the cars are backwards and taking off.
Yeah, and the 4 car just on its roof here. As you look at this, I think this was another view of it. You can kind of see how far around they've actually gotten when they take off.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was another great angle. Go back on that. You mentioned it earlier. We talked about the wing shape of these cars when they're sideways. Well, right here, before they take off, the 2 is almost completing the wing on the 4 car. We mentioned the air going up over, and you did this on the other segment. But now, instead of coming right back down or getting chopped off, it also goes over the 2 car and continues that wing profile.
Yeah, definitely a situation where I think the nose of the 2 car being behind the greenhouse of the 4 kind of fills that void there, puts it in a place where it comes forward. If you look at it here, this is what we're talking about angle-wise. If you look at the angle is 4 car. it's relative to the racetrack. We're probably 120 degrees past, it's past 90, another 30 degrees past it. And I think it gives a different environment. You see the gap that's forming right here underneath that rear tire. He's starting to come airborne. The roof flaps up, but I don't think it's going to do anything for him at this point.
He's unfortunately not far enough around for that roof flap to deploy the diffuser flap and get it to stop that. They're just at a weird 45-degree angle with the part of the car that has really no flap doing anything.
Yeah, the flap and the diffuser, if the car gets all the way around, is going to work back there. But we're kind of in that no man's zone. A place that NASCAR is going to, I would think, going to have to address something before we get to Atlanta.
Yeah, they have an advantage. They don't have to do something in 2 or 3 days like we did this week after we saw the last wreck. It seems like they might have made the right move for 90 degrees. Looks like they got to go back to work on a little bit farther for Atlanta in 2 weeks.
And that gives them a week here to kind of digest all the data and get to the point where they can get information back to you, the team guys. You had it last week. That came out, what, Wednesday of the addition for going to Daytona?
Yeah, prepping cars, going about normal, and all of a sudden you start to hear rumbles that there might be a new piece coming. And Wednesday night, I took the guys' parts and dinner at the shop to make sure we got the new fin installed. Some guys did it at the track. Certainly a very last-second deal. We didn't all have aero information about how it was going to affect the cars. I do think it contributed to what we saw, which was even some higher speeds in qualifying for the whole field this time.
Yeah. But first, we've got Darlington. It's the last regular season race. We'll look at the playoff points next.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week right here at Around the Track. Whether you are going to the racetrack or watching from home, we get you ready for all things national and regional level.
And we'll tell you who and what to watch for each week. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend at the racetrack, and Erica will help you place your bets to win some easy money.
Be sure to check out Around the Track every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Down to the final regular season race. We have a playoff bubble and a regular season championship to dig into.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's look at the bubble to start with. We talked about it last week. We said that line was going to be here, and it is.
Yeah, it absolutely turned out with the surprise winner at Daytona, like has been mentioned multiple times. I think now it's just about set. You mentioned Chris Buescher's feeling pretty warm and fuzzy there at 21 going to Darlington. He's going to need a pretty catastrophic day to lose it.
Especially when this was a place that he was arguing with Tyler Reddick about he should have that sticker on top of his door. They had a really good run in the spring race at Darlington, and I would think he'd have to have a tough day to lose 21 points.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bubba, he can get there mathematically on points, so can Ross. But the day it's going to take is essentially going to be a race-winning day in order for them to get in. So the mission's the same for everybody below the cut line.
And on top of that, Chris Buescher is going to have a mediocre day.
Yep.
Versus really an off day from what he's had in the past. When you look at this, we could still have a Kyle Busch, an Eric Jones. I mean, there are still guys that could win behind this line, but a Ross Chastain, who's run well there.
So, Todd, do you think we need to look at this and say, what do we got here? 18, right?
Yes.
So is 18 points going to come into play, or do you think he's pretty safe too?
Likewise, I think Ty Gibbs would have to have a pretty decently off day. I just think that when you get to 10 points, that's one thing. We can make that happen in stage points. But with the momentum they've had, I feel like Martin Truex Jr. very solidly in a good position.
So the bubble's
even
the
if
same.
Somebody wins.
You have to win to break up the bubble now.
I think that'd be my take going forward. I think we've got to see an outlier winner or Chris Buescher have a devastating race.
Yep. Well, let's look at the top of the point standing then, because there was definitely some shakeup here this week.
Yes, there was. We talked about a 4-car race last week, and I really felt like Denny Hamlin was in the best position at that point. I know he was farthest back in points, but I felt like coming to a couple racetracks he could be really good at.
Yeah, we unfortunately saw this movement right here. Big deal for Denny Hamlin, that engine penalty. Nobody saw that one coming.
No, and I don't think even Chris Gabehart didn't see that coming. A situation where they had a race-winning motor at Bristol, of all places, Bristol, right? But reran at Darlington, I believe, and got torn down at the TRD facility instead of bringing it back to NASCAR's inspection facility. A penalty that I don't think was anything wrong with it. I don't think you would cheat a motor at Bristol of all places. And I really feel like TRD made a mistake here. The penalty showed that because it's on the lowest end of the L2 penalties.
NASCAR's, they do this intentionally, right? We talked about you don't want to get somebody cheating on motors. They don't even want that to even be a chance. So they make this big penalty, even though it was mostly a procedural error for these guys, to make sure the point's driven home. Joe Gibbs Racing, an 11 team, fighting for the regular season championship. they're putting the heat back on TRD to make sure this never happens again.
Yeah, and I'm sure that internally they'll get to the point where this is covered. It does bring forward, there's 3 guys here in a position that could put themselves in the championship.
Yeah, we talked about Chase Elliott only getting 1 point this last weekend, Larson being caught up in a couple of those wrecks. They didn't close the gap to Tyler Reddick that they would have wanted to, but it's still within a fighting distance.
Yeah, we say that. This is 18 again. If you look at back to Chase Elliott, it's 17 back to Kyle Larson. I think we need Tyler Reddick to not have a good day to put those 2 back in play, but anything can happen when we get down to Darlington.
You got 2 guys, Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher, looking for at least an average day in the top 10, and everybody else looking for a win.
We'll see how this plays out. It's a regular season finale at Darlington. Be sure to tune in Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on USA.